We're talking now about something brand new that has just started. And I was actually privy to one of my homies actually getting one of these done months ago. It actually happened at MegaCon. Shout out Davis Ryder. He had this idea. He had this Darkwing Duck 9.8 David Nakayama variant. Gorgeous Spawn 1 homage. And he wanted to get a remark done. And he thought, I can give David a raw copy and have him remark it. Or maybe I just take this 9.8 slab, already encased, and have him just draw something on the slab. And then, Jeff, you sent us a message about a book that looks so damn cool that's about to sell on, was it Heritage?
Yeah, Heritage has this book for auction. It's a TMNT #1, first print, and I believe it was a 9.2. And what happened is it's a yellow label, so it's a signature series. It's been signed already, but there was a remark by Kevin Eastman on the front of the cover, on the front of the slab.
On the plastic.
On the plastic.
Not the comic.
Not the comic. So I have seen people signing slabs, okay, but I haven't really seen remarks. So when I saw this one, it was so over the top, and it just really popped, and it actually looked pretty freaking cool. Didn't really take away, I don't think. I mean, there's going to be traditionalists always, who are going to be like, oh, you're defacing something so classic. And to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of that cover anyway. I've never liked that style, so I don't really give a damn. This actually looks better to me, with it being the contrast of the kind of black and white cover to the color of the front layer of this plastic. Anyways, it's on auction. It's at $16,500 or so right now, with I think it goes off on June 22nd, so still a lot of time. It's a pretty strong number already.
What do you think, Ryan? As someone who is probably more likely to pay for collectibles from artists and creators, writers, getting things signed, getting things remarked, before going, head first into a 9.8 expensive comic book, how do you feel about getting a piece of art done on a piece of plastic rather than the actual collectible itself?
I mean, speaking about that Turtles one specifically, like Jeff was talking, the colors really pop, and there's a cool effect too, because it's almost like a 3D sort of version of the remark, because it's on the case, which is removed from the actual comic itself on the inside, so there's a little bit of depth to it. I think that's pretty cool. I have seen people complain that, that's going to wear off over time, and it's going to end up looking kind of gross, the further down the road you go. But the book itself, on the inside, everything is still preserved and intact on the inside. So, absolute worst case scenario, you've still got a yellow label 9.8 TMNT #1 on the inside.
That was definitely something that I would put a word of caution out there. There is a particular way you have to draw on these slabs. It has to be done in layers. It has to be done with the right type of ink, because I've seen this done more than once, and it bleeds like a mofo. And that ink does not dry. And if you ever dealt with a remark that wasn't drying, especially at a convention, you have not dealt with the woes of conventions and how bad it can get. There were times where I had a handful of remarks that I just paid for, and there was a point. Shout out Michael Calero, because he had this idea. He was actually he's our editor, by the way, of CRASHDOWN, and head of Massive Publishing, Whatnot Publishing. And he was doing a bunch of remarks at the time, it was at Emerald City Comic Con, and they released this ash can with the Space Needle Jim Mahfood cover. It's a gorgeous cover. I love it. And I had a bunch, and I'm like, yo, Michael, I'll pay. I want you to do a bunch of remarks. We're going to do giveaways. We're in Seattle. This is my town, so I was going to have a good time with it. And there was a person next to me, a fan of Michael and a fan of the show, and he says, what would be really cool to do? You should put some red on that black and white sketch. And Michael's like, oh, I don't have a red. And this homie said, oh, I have a red marker you can use. And the first thing I thought of was, I haven't cleared that red marker. If Michael hasn't cleared that red marker and I haven't, we're taking a risk right now, because what if he pulls out something that is just going to be terrible as far as the drying process goes? And sure enough, I was walking out that convention holding 2 comics like this. I had my partner with me. She's holding 2 comics like this. And it was a mess. And that entire weekend, 3 days at Emerald City, in my hotel, I had these propped up on plants and random chairs. I'm taking out that hair dryer that they have in the bathroom, and I'm hitting them every once in a while when no one was streaming. I'm just hitting them with that hot air, and they all got ruined. None of them stuck. And I still remember that person. He's a homie, but yo, that was a bad move, and I should have stuck with my gut. Don't add any variables to an already pricey situation.
Yeah, I mean, you got to kind of take in consideration what you're applying it to, right? If you're applying it to plastic, obviously plastic is not absorbent whatsoever, so it's going to have to dry, but it's also going to lend to scrapes, right? If something scraped across the top, it'll scrape right off. If something like brushed against the top of a comic, it's not going to just peel away, and obviously paper absorbs better, so I get that. I do feel the colors become more rich with the type of markers that were used, especially on a clear plastic like that, but they do also resonate on a comic as well. But then you got to worry about potential probably bleed through, I would assume. I don't know. I haven't quite.
It happens.
So I get it. I mean, there's pros and cons, so choose wisely.
You must choose. But choose wisely.
Will they slab the slab?
They better not.
This TMNT remark one with the crazy Kevin Eastman on it. You
Don't
think
give them ideas,
you can
Ryan.
submit that back to CGC and say, just give me some kind of even bigger plastic container that will keep going. You just get like down the rabbit hole, Inception style, just remark and remark and remark and remark.
Well, what I can say is that there is a con to this, which is that it definitely puts the art at risk. And if you ever accidentally crack that case, you're SOL, right? Like you're gonna you're gonna redo the case. You're gonna lose that piece of art on it. So it's a layer of like insurance that really you have when you're putting artwork behind the slab. At the very least, in the event that something happens to the slab, let alone rubs up against it. Most of the time, in regards to slabs, for me, I don't value the slab. I value the grade of the slab and the contents on the inside. If there's a scratch on it, whatever. It's like $12, $15, or I mean, who knows their pricing? They're changing it every freaking week, it seems like. But with that said, it's I don't look at that as a $15 charge as much when there's a freaking Kevin Eastman sign and remark turtle on the front of it.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a separate piece of layered art. So, like again, those I don't know if it's an old magazine case or new one. We're gonna find out because we're gonna be unboxing the new CGC cases, so we'll see what those look like. But those cases are generally flimsy. If you crack that case along the art side, you're kind of screwed. If you end up popping that case very carefully, you have a separate piece of art. You can put it up. You can put it against another comic book if you want and just kind of clamshell them together. I mean, you could do something with it. You do have that flexibility, but you got to be careful about that plastic break-in.
Back when I was doing my aggressive Mignola collecting, I didn't just have a 9/8 copy of Next Men 21. I had a 9/8 signed copy of Next Men 21. And I looked at those and thought, I do want a remarked copy. And Mignola doesn't really do remarks. But at the time, I was deciding I need to get another 9.8 because I want them all. I want one of each. And I know that's excessive. And I understand if members don't agree with me there. They'd probably be fine with a 9/8 with all the works done with it. But I gotta say, as someone who was like really trying to piece together the best collection I could, having artwork that's done after the fact is just such a different collectible that it definitely pulled away from me wanting to like sacrifice another copy in my collection. I just wanted to get more. So seeing this extra layer of what you can do with a slab, it kind of excites me. Because for those who don't want to have their comic book tainted in any way, and there's a lot of people in the community. I mean, this has been a point of discussion for years, decades now, whether a signature in Sharpie is actually causing some type of added part to the comic that should devalue it. But we're in a time now where some signatures raise the value when others don't. And it's an interesting phenomenon.
The whole signature thing of one's devaluing and one's raising value, that's a whole nother topic. But I'd love to hear your opinions on this one. Remarks on slabs. What's your opinion on them? Please let us know down below.